Hi there, thanks for joining me today. I have a flip through of a book I recently finished that I had so much fun making that I actually made two. So there's going to be two flip throughs today and two books available in my Etsy shop today that are very similar and very different. Similarly made, very different topics. And this one, you might be wondering, why has she got this nest here? And this nest was the inspiration for the journal that I created. That as much as I'm in love with her, I know that there's a home out there for her, for someone who also enjoys magical foresty things. And this nest actually became the inspiration for the book, the journal that I created, that started from this. I found this book in a thrift store, or so I thought, book, and I immediately was intrigued by it. The Faery Queen. I knew right away, I could tell that it was genuine and genuinely old, and that it was falling apart. It was in a bag that they had sealed shut, so I literally took a chance on it. And am I ever glad I did? And it turned out that the text block that managed to fit inside it perfectly is not the original text block to the Faery Queen. I was so hopeful, but I loved the cover anyways. Imagine loving a plain black, ugly, messy cover, but I immediately fell in love with it. I was able to find another copy of this one because the Faery Queen was a long poem originally written in the 1500s, and it has been published thousands of times. So this is one of many. It's not rare by any means, but it's very special to me because I saw so much potential in this lovely old book. And because I was able to find it and it had been published in 1857, I knew that I would be able to scan it, and that the copyright would be worn out on it. So I scanned it and decided to see if I could replicate how gloriously messy the Faery Queen looked and how much potential she had. And for this Faery Queen, I kept thinking of, I don't know if you're like me, I collect nests, abandoned nests. And I just think that they are such a magnificent testament to nature. How birds know to build the home for their children. My hat's off to them, because when I had my first baby placed in my arms, and then the second one was placed in my arms 8 minutes later, I would not have known how to build a home, or ahead of time how to build a home for these little screaming mimes that arrived in my arms. And somehow Mother Nature instinctively tells animals and birds and other creatures how to make homes for their children. And this is a robin's nest, and you might be wondering, she stole an egg. No, I didn't. Actually, thanks to my daughter Emily, who is a bird nerd. Robins are notorious for building several nests in different places, starting to lay eggs in those nests. Then the eggs will remain dormant until the mother becomes broody and decides to sit on the eggs and start incubating them, and then they start to develop, which is why they can lay an egg a day. But until she starts sitting on all those eggs, then they will all start hatching around the same time within a few hours of each other. It's incredible how nature works. But the thing is, because they've made several nests, she may have laid an egg in one nest and laid an egg in another nest, and then the third nest that the husband built, she and the husband built, they thought, this is a really, really nice nest. Let's stick with this one. And before you know it, if you're careful and you keep your eye out after the nesting season is over and you see an abandoned nest, or they fall out of trees sometimes on a windy day, you can find an egg that is still intact. And you might think, ooh, that's not going to be nice. You sure you want to keep that? The cool thing again about nature is the shell of eggs are breathable. And if you keep an egg long enough, the inside will eventually dehydrate. And this actually weighs almost nothing. It's like air. And inside would just be some flakes, probably. I don't want to crack it open to find out because I love the color of a North American robin's egg. I think there's even a little feather in here. If we look, yeah, there's a little robin tummy feather. And I bet that's a lady feather. The ladies are slightly gray and the males are black with the red tummy. So the ladies are more subdued. But long story short, what amazes me about it is they make use of things from the human world when they build their home. If you can see, there is blue pieces of what we would consider trash. This is a piece of plastic, blue plastic. I know I saw a piece of, oh, there's the blue plastic right there. I saw a piece of string in here, white string. There's some old leaves. Oh, there's a little piece of fabric. They find things from the human world and make use of it. And it kind of reminds me of Ariel's grotto when she collects human things and wonders what were they used for. Fortunately, robins, I'm not sure whether robins and birds in general wonder what were they used for. They just see it and go, oh, okay, this is going in the new home. and create things, little parts of our human world go into their world. So, which is a nice thing you can do in the springtime when they're trying to find things to build their nests. You can hang little pieces of string on your tree branches, and the birds will be very grateful. So, long story short, this little nest was my inspiration for what happened to the Faery Queen. And this is what ultimately became of the scanned covers of the Faery Queen and the journal that I created out of that funny old cover from 1857. I apologize if this flip through is long, but this lady has quite a story to tell and quite a collection to show off. But let's start first with her measurements. She's quite an ample lady, so she's about 4 3/4 inches. The pages, the signatures, which there are 5 of, are actually larger than the cover in many cases, and can be anywhere between 8 1/4 and 8 1/2, because I wanted it to be very haphazard, the way a bird's nest can be very haphazard and yet still be very, very useful. So with our little Faery Queen, I put in a soft spine and used a pamphlet stitch to sew in the 5 signatures. Signature 1, 3, and 5 I tied to the outside and tied them in bows. Signatures 2 and 4 I tied on the inside and imagined that the little fairies who live with the Faery Queen find these little human articles here and there, wondering what they are, and save them and collect them, not unlike magpies and crows, and little pieces of ribbon and little pieces of lace. And so I've tied those onto the strings for the 2nd and 4th signature. For the cover for this queen, because I have a feeling I'm going to be making many, many Faery Queen journals. Oh, let's see how wide she is. I believe she's 1 3/4. She's about 1 3/4. Because she's soft spine, I think once she's full, she could expand to 2. I'm expandable, so I don't know about you. I wanted a really natural foresty look for this journal. And I imagined that our Faery Queen lived amongst all her little people and brought them gifts and brought them things that she found, and that they all shared them amongst each other. And here she was bringing fruits that she found on trees, and that maybe she's a little bit braver because she's the queen and would explore a little further outside the woods into orchards and that. And I put a frame around her from a book I have on the history of frames. All of these bits and pieces, of course, I've gathered from thrift stores and yard sales, or I've been gifted them in Happy Mail, antique shops, that sort of thing. And then put them all together. And this journal, except I think for the glue and the ink and maybe thread, is otherwise all thrifted, secondhand, repurposed materials. The papers, the laces, the ribbons, the leaves. Let's go. So she needed a frame. She is the queen. And there's a little piece of William Morris in behind, and I imagined that she even maybe had her own Tinkerbell who followed with her as she wanders through the forest amongst her little fairy friends. And on the back here, I couldn't leave it blank, so I borrowed something that Anna at Made by Grenath loves to do. I just put a few little labels on the back. I left this one blank so that you can write your name on it or the dates that you worked in it on it. It's blank for you. Although I glued very well the fabric to the cover, I also sewed it together just to be on the safe side to make sure it's secure. On the inside, you'll see that this time, unlike when if you watch the video for Wonderfully Good, I completely covered up the fabric. I left most of the fabric showing so you can see the hand stitching that I did through this cover, but I did put a little bit of lace along the edge. And here we have another blank label here for you again. You could put your name, or maybe if found, please return, and your email address. Here's some vellum paper that was in an old photo album, part of a photo album that I found at my Weigh and Pay store, and it's got little spiders and spider webs on it, and I thought how perfect for a foresty feeling fairy book, that even spiders are their friends. And when you turn the pages, here's where you're going to start seeing that they're all different sizes. There's a total of 164 pages in this book of varying sizes. So, like I said, big book in compact size with lots of room for writing or whatever you want to do with it. Even though I had a whole lot of fun with this book. This is some lace off of a wedding gown. I tea-dyed it to make it look a little bit older, but it looked sparkly the way I imagined fairy wings would look. And here's, I borrowed I fussy cut some illustrations out of Mary Cecily Barker book. And put her there, and then I make use of the silk leaves off silk flowers that I find at thrift stores and have put them on many of the edges, and I've done it for both sides. Let's come back a little bit. There we go. And it was such an ample book, I decided that I could fit more. Those are my notes, so I remember what I want to point out to you. It could handle more pages. So this is a handy way of putting more pages in your books. You can fold them in half and glue them in. I've sewn them so they look like they're sewn in, but if you notice on this side, the stitching doesn't go all the way through. This is just stitched on here and then glued in. Same with this side where there's the botanical print of the various life stages of, I believe those are moths. And same with on that side. And then more journaling space. And on this page, wherever possible, I did hand tearing rather than ruler tearing or even my decollage cutting chomper. But when necessary, I use those. More laces, more lace off that bridal gown. Some resume paper. This is the rest of the Faery Queen's dress. Her dress comes out from under the frame, and there was still a little bit left of her beautiful red dress. So I put that here, and I put a word snippet on it that says twinkle. The other side's blank. You might have a word snippet you want to put on it. More lace pieces. I raided my bin that just has chunks of lace and pieces of little flowers and tiny little brads to hold it in place. And again, more pages. I added more pages in. You'll be able to add more pages in. Another fairy from the Mary Cecily Barker book that I fussy cut. I must admit I do enjoy a challenging fussy cut, getting all these little windows sliced out, and you have to use your sheet of glass and a sharp craft knife for that. A little bit of stamping here. This page needed some extra, because it's heavy, sometimes they don't want to bend as easily, so I used some washi tape on there for that. This was perfect for a foresty themed journal because it's got grass and leaves in it, and it tips out. And of course, a little bit of Edith Holden. You can't have a foresty kind of journal without Edith Holden in it. Another little fairy here with some more bridal lace and some more leaves and flowers. This one has a copper colored brad on it, and again more leaves here, and I sewed along the edge. I sewed them on. Here's where you'll see it's the second signature. So there is the beads and the dangly threads. If this isn't your kind of thing, you can trim that and use these little beads wherever you want and use them as little charms. Put them onto pins or sew them onto pieces of the lace along the edge. They don't have to stay there if that's not your kind of thing. That's the beauty of a junk journal. You make it your own once it arrives. The things that I've done to it are temporary. And if it's not your thing, change it up and make it your thing. I added this fern, again, found at a thrift store, and I hand sewed that in, and I purposefully wanted it to look messy, and thank goodness I'm good at that. And it's sewn right in there with a little bit of gold embroidery floss, and I think that looks pretty because it sticks up over the top. And then again, more pages for you without interrupting that nice big page. So, and again, I used the sewing on this page, but I didn't sew through here. On this side, I used part of a little purple pansy, and again, some leaves from thrifted bundles of artificial plants. And if you peel the leaves off the plastic stems, they'll still keep their shape, but they won't bulk up your books. And again, I went around with the sewing machine. You'll see it on this side. There's the sewing machine there. And then since I had the room here, I fussy cut some mushrooms. Can't have a forest without mushrooms, and put those there. This is from a German book on how to play the recorder. And again, I added more pages for journaling, and fussy cut some two little ladybugs looking out over a pond. On this page, I actually covered up an error I made, and I like how it turned out. It's one of those happy mistakes, like Bob Ross says, because when I glue in lace first, usually gently, before I sew them in. And when I glued in this lace, I closed it up too soon, and the glue, some of the glue, stained this side of this page. Well, we have ways with junk journals, thank goodness. There's things called collaging or inking or stamping, or else adding fabric or lace. And so we covered up the glue with the lace. A little bit of Beatrix Potter. We had to put, I believe that's Mrs. Tiggy Winkle, and we had to put her in there. And she's doing her laundry here, and getting, maybe getting tea ready, or no, her iron is there. Maybe she's getting them damp before she presses them. That used to be my job when it was ironing day for my mother, because I'm old enough that I remember my mother had wash day on Mondays, drying day on Tuesdays, because everything had to be hung up, and in the winter it got hung up in the basement. She had long lines in our basement that wasn't finished, and the laundry got hung up on lines. And then usually by Wednesday it was ironing day, and my job was to sprinkle the laundry with water and roll it in a ball and put it in a basket for my mom to press. So you can see here, this is one of the signatures that has the bow on the outside. There we go. with the other side of the Beatrix Potter, and again I added more pages. It was too much fun. Because it's a Sunnyside journal, it's just not a Sunnyside journal without a Two Nanas bookmark. And if you're new here, I call it a Two Nanas bookmark because those are the Nanas from our family. That's my Nana, and her name was Elizabeth. And then this is her daughter, Jerry, and Jerry is my mother, and she was known by Nana in our family. So that's why I call it the Two Nanas bookmark. And it just says that it's a Sunnyside journal, and thanks you for purchasing it. On this page, we have another little fairy. This was out of that antique sticker album, that wonderful big book antique sticker album. And then a little tab out the side here with butterfly wings that match. Fortunately, she still has her wings, so whew, that's good. On this page, I added in an envelope. There was room, so I made a hinge for it. And this paper is also out of that sticker book, the antiques. I forget what the name of it is, but the big antique sticker book. Those who know will know. And I created a tuck spot on this side from the page of a book. And then this is a page out of another old book, but the book was from 1893. This time I did take a moment and write what year that book was. And so that page is from 1893. Inside here, if you open it up, I did a little stamping so it didn't look too plain. And there's some little frogs. Inside, I've put a few things. There's some doilies for you to have fun with. And then I recently received some happy mail that I thought I'd share with from Amanda. Look how beautiful this is. Isn't that pretty? I just love it. So I'm sharing one. Just one. And then also some doilies. They fit in there nicely, and you can do what you wish with those. Then the nice thing about these is you can open and close the envelope. Now this book is a little different because some of the pages are soft. They can be hard to work on. So I made a journaling board for it. And again, I had fun with all the little things that maybe fairies would find from people who humans walking through the forest and dropping things, or maybe a piece of their clothing tears off on a branch as they're going through, and the fairies find them and keep them like precious little trinkets. And so this is from, actually, I believe it's from the book that this fussy cut came from. This one. It's the back cover of the book. The front cover wasn't any good. Now you have to leave one side smooth when you make a journaling board, because what you'll do is you turn it around and you put it behind the page you want to work on, and it gives you a firm surface to work on. But then when you're all done, you can turn it back around, and that pretty lacy edge just adds to that waterfall of all those laces. And just, I love journaling boards. So I'm glad there was room in this journal for a journaling board. I've left this blank. You can go nuts on this side if you want, to the new owner. Because like I said, flip it over. Leave this side flat. If you want to, you could draw on it, you could make notes on it, you could journal on it. But if you leave it flat, even if you collage on it, collage very flat, it will still be useful to give you a firm surface for when you're journaling. So let's put this back in here. I had a little bit of fun stamping. I'm a nervous stamper because I'm not very good. But I did show a little bit of bravery, and I did do some stamping in the Faery Queen. A little bit more lace. This is actually one of the corners off of this square one. There were 3 other corners off of the little purple pansy. So this is one of the corners off of that piece. So nothing got wasted. And a little flower there. And on this side, I tucked part of it in and made a pocket. And then inside is actually a genuine antique postcard. And I just thought the colors were perfect, and maybe that's the forest where all the fairies live with their queen, and perhaps there's the humans that live there that wander around in the forest, and they find all their little items that they collect and save. And then this is just a little nameplate for, ladies used to have luncheons and such, and you'd use a nameplate, or at a shower, baby showers and bridal showers. If there was a meal being served, sit-down meal, you'd put name place cards. This is from actually Amazon packing. We're not wasting anything. A little mushroom with another little piece of lace that didn't get wasted. This came from Happy Mail from all the way over in Germany from Jen. Thank you, Jen. And again, some old lace that I sewed on, and also made use of little flowers that you can find at thrift stores. I glued that in, tucked it into the lace so that the bottom is hidden, and it just looks like some little flowers growing up there. And here you can see where I sewed it all in. And this again is one of the threads that was on the inside that got all the little bits and bobs of human things. The little pieces of lace and buttons and dangly things. Lots of golds and blacks and reds. And I got a little punch. My friend Jeanette brought me 3 bags full of scrapbook materials a couple weeks ago. And this tiny little butterfly punch was in with all those things. And so I made use of that. And again, a tip out of that grass paper that has leaves and grass in it. And another little fairy sitting here amongst the flowers. See what I mean by when you see this much room in between the signatures, that means that these papers will become more foldable, and it means you'll be able to fit more things into it. And that's what I mean by this book. Although it looks jam-packed, which it is, there's still lots of room for you. I added a little bit of greenery here, and I sewed it on by hand using gold sparkly thread, because a fairy did it. So of course fairies would have gold sparkly threads, right? Added more writing room for you, or art room, or whatever it is that you do with your journals there, and a little more Edith. And there's a nest that reminded me that maybe fairies and birds have something in common, and it reminded me of this nest. This is from a book I have called Moths and Butterflies of England, and because it has writing on it on this side, I made it so that it's journalable. Is that a word? And again, same little trick. Although I sewed this paper, I didn't sew it through to this side. This was in with Jeanette's things that she gave me, and it's a tiny little watercolor that somebody did, a miniature. And I keep meaning to message Jeanette and ask her if she did those, or else I know she had a group of friends that she worked with that they'd have scrapbooking get-togethers, and there was one particular friend I noticed in particular had given quite a few things to her. So I'm interested to find out who the artist is of these, because there were 3 of them in with all these bags of goodies. Along the edge here is, I think this was pillowcase edging, this crocheted pillowcase edging, and then some more lace there, and then I hand sewed this little ribbon rose onto the edge of one of them. There's a bulldog clip up here with a little bit of lace too. It's the same lace as here. And then a little bit of ribbon on that side. Let me move this up. I had fun with my stomping distress stain stomper that was gifted to me, and I think that looks cool. And then again, maybe some pieces of newspaper blew into the woods, and a fairy found it and said, "What's this? What are these pictures? What is this?" And of course it's me, so sorry about that, but I love that. Page out of an old book, because using up scraps. And this is the other side of the Moths and Butterflies of England. And because there was writing on it, I decided to make it so that you could journal on it. And then I decided to make it useful and make that a pocket. And so there's a little journaling tag in there. And that was the bottom of what page? Now I forget. You're going to have to watch how I made this book, because I know I explain it somewhere, that it's the bottom of one of the pages. And if you notice, it's the same paper. I tried to make use of everything. And so let's find it. There we go. There we go. And a little more lace and leaves and pretty things. And a little bit of lace here. I put a little dab of orange ink to match this little boy fairy's colorings that he had. And then this is from another old book I had. It still had the book plate in it, and it almost looks like there were little fairy bookmakers on it. And I thought, okay, I'd been saving it for a while. This is the perfect book for it to go into, especially with the shades of brown and that. And then here's my usual little signature, and it says 2024 there. And the nice thing about these soft spine journals is they're so floppy and easy to open and flip around and work in. And with having the journaling board makes this kind of book a little easier to work in. I have since learned, live and learn, because this is only the second one I've ever made. This kind of journal really does better with a heavier quality of paper than too thin. So it worked out fortuitous, because I mean, who doesn't enjoy a journaling board in it? So this journal will be available in my Etsy shop a little later today, probably around 5 p.m. I'll put the exact time down below in the comments. If you're interested, I hope you'll go over and take a look, and I hope, if you're still here at this time, that you enjoyed this flip through, and thanks for visiting with me today and learning a little more about the Faery Queen and all the little special treasures that her little fairylings gather from in the woods. Thanks for joining me today. Take care and have a great day. Bye.